Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's brief ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Looking first here at our satellite data from this afternoon on Thursday, we can see that we have a couple of areas in the tropics we're keeping a close eye on. Much of the rest of the United States was relatively cloud-free except for parts of the northern plains and the upper Midwest. But what you see here from what's left of Nicholas, most of the heavier rainfall will be off to the east, but Nicholas's center of circulation is just going to take most of the rest of this week just to move a little bit farther to the north into Louisiana. We're also keeping an eye here on this tropical system that's just off the coast of North Carolina. It's expected to stay there, possibly just giving a little cloud cover, maybe roughing up the seas a little bit, and providing some shower activity into North Carolina. But when you look at what the forecast is here for the next few days, what we get is there's a 70% chance of that developing, but likely staying off in the open Atlantic. And the system that follows it here, still a lot is up in the air about where this is going to be about 5 days from now. And should it get here north of the Lesser Antilles toward the Bahamas, what it could potentially do. Most models at this point attempt to keep whatever it is out to open ocean, but I'm still going to watch it all weekend to see its forward progression. But kind of coming back here to Nicholas, you can see that Nicholas has already produced incredibly heavy rainfall down here along the Gulf Coast in Texas, Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and Alabama just over the last few days, and some of those heavy rains have extended into Georgia as well. You can also see the other pieces, like the front that moved through here, what was that, Tuesday night, and then Wednesday we had the severe storms that stretched into the northeast, when just looking back over the last 72 hours of total accumulated precipitation. Now this is an area that I'm going to watch most carefully moving forward. We certainly know that over the last month, take a look at it here, that has been a region that's been extremely wet. We talked about that pattern break that got us there. What I am most concerned about is some of the shifts we've seen lately in the models. So why don't we have a good discussion about that? Yesterday afternoon, when the 12Z European model came out, it was, as several of the model runs had done before that, producing a very deep low right in this area. It's the same low that comes across the Pacific Northwest this weekend. It just emerges once it gets over the mountains. And it was going to be drawing in a lot of warm, moist, and unstable air, producing a very large shield of rain here, and a lot of thunderstorms out ahead of it, and even adding more rain down here to the southeast in conjunction with Nicholas. But let me just take those drawings off there. You can see that I was concerned about a continuation of the incredibly heavy rain we've had in that same area for the last month, with several of these climate reporting districts having their wettest 30-day time period, again mid-August to this point in September, on record. Well, this is what the old forecast looked like, and here's the new one. And the difference has now shifted more of that rainfall and the whole of the low farther to the east. This increases rainfall through parts of the eastern Corn Belt, getting into this part of the northeast, and shoves it farther here out of Ontario into parts of Quebec. And you may look and say, well, it looks like there's less precipitation here, but the main reason for that is there's the rainfall that's coming in the next 24 hours wasn't included in this, is what we're looking at here. So here's where everything's taken place. It's this wave right here. And in previous runs, as this short wave came into the northwest, it was expected to dig down pretty deep and become a cutoff circulation here by the time we get into early next week. And that's no longer in the forecast. You see, yesterday's model runs took that wave and cut it off right there. And that means that the jet stream, the main piece of it's going to stay to the north like this, and we're going to leave this low to sit here and slowly spin. Now, cutoff lows are notorious for producing sustained cold weather and also a lot of precipitation because they just keep lifting the air on their eastern side. And that's why we saw such heavy precipitation in this area. Well, what changed is this. This is now the new position for the same time next Tuesday evening of what that wave is going to do. And now we see it as back to being open. It's a part of the flow again. It's going to move more quickly toward the Great Lakes and through them. And as a consequence, push this whole system farther to the east quicker, not letting it cut off and produce all that very, very heavy rainfall. And then after that, as we move things forward, what we end up getting is deeper troughs over the east by the time we get out there past the solstice, the equinox, and then we see a bigger ridge developing over the west. I'm going to come back to that in a few minutes as we look out there to that week 2 precipitation forecast. But right now, there is still a frontal boundary that's sweeping through from the first system here in this part of the plains. And we do have scattered showers and storms still today and tonight in parts of the southeast to the mid-Atlantic. So let's take a look at this front that's coming out of the plains through the upper Midwest first, and we're going to do that by going right to our high-res NAM model. Now, as we watch the forecast moving forward, let's get to this evening. There we go. Could have our frontal squall line in this area that in the overnight hours kind of builds out into a broader shield of precipitation. So this is early Friday morning. As we then work our way through the day on Friday, let's stop around mid-afternoon on Friday. There's the position of that front. So you can see the scattered storms along it. And still, Nicholas, this is all what's going on with Nicholas. And there's our coastal tropical system we're keeping an eye on here. Now, from there, getting into Friday night, working our way into Saturday, early Saturday morning. Let's just stop it at 7 a.m. Again, a lot of scattered precip here still from Nicholas, and there is the new system that's coming into the Pacific Northwest. That's the one we're going to be watching carefully into next week. But if we play this on forward through the rest of the day on Saturday, let's stop it right here at 7 p.m. at the end of the model run. This is all still from Nicholas. That's that circulation. The lows just moved about right here, and we just keep pulling the moisture around it. And what's going to kick this out is the bigger feature coming into the Pacific Northwest. So to analyze that, I want to do a multi-model analysis. Now, this is our brief video. If we're going to do this rather quickly. We've already seen through the day on Friday, getting now into Saturday, and through Sunday afternoon and evening. Now, at this point, both the GFS and the European have that tropical system that was just off the Carolinas in the same spot. See it? They have the new low that's coming into the Pacific Northwest, oriented and basically making the same precipitation. And scattered storms over the southeast, well resolved in both models. Sunday, getting through the day. Now watch, as we go now into Monday, let's stop it here Monday evening. Very, very good timing on both models. There's a high here. You see it on both sides. The flow comes around. Scattered storms drawn up on the moisture coming out of the Gulf here. There's the main front. There will be an upper level front out ahead of it, but both models have it. It's the same exact pattern. So as we go from Monday evening into Tuesday morning, afternoon and evening, what I'll watch is as that front sweeps through. That's the upper level front, mind you. As the upper level front sweeps through, they could get some severe storms in this area. We'll just keep an eye on it and see if it materializes. But that low, look at both models, almost just in lockstep with one another. And they keep that going out there through Wednesday and eventually into Thursday, where the front gets dragged through the northeast. And then once it's out, we have higher pressure behind this, clearer skies, and cooler weather. And I'm going to talk about that in just a few moments. So we put it all together. I'm just going to show it to you in one map because, to be honest, both of the models have a very similar picture of this now. This is our newest update for the next 7 days on total precip. And again, my main concern is the increase in precip here, the shift to the east of the heaviest rainfall now over parts of, well, Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, Ontario, and Quebec. And we're going to continue to add more rainfall to the regions down here in the south and southeast that have already been flooded. But that shift out of the plains is the most significant with this particular storm system. What about week 2? Well, let's start at day 10. Trough here. That's the trough that finally exits east, and a ridge builds in behind it. This particular setup, this flow like this, produces a lot of upper level convergence in the flow of the jet stream, and therefore you get subsidence and drier weather. So this is the other big trend, looking out there exclusively at days 7 through 14, which gets us out to the 30th of September. The models, all of them, the GFS, the European, and their ensembles have dried out that time period. Now, what are these temperatures going to do? Because right now, the all hazards weather map has some frost advisories here. This is red flag warning, and this is stronger wind. And of course, we have the flood issues down here. Well, take a look at this. This is some data that I've been kind of vetting for a while now. It comes from a model called the MBM. It's actually not a model. It's a blend of models, the National Blended Model. And this is for Friday morning at 7 a.m. And we're going to be seeing temperatures in this section of North Dakota getting down into the upper 30s. But there'll be frost that happens in this part of Montana and then up here in Alberta and Saskatchewan, where we also had a frost this morning. So we're going to watch that very, very carefully. But those high temperatures, take a look at this. This is Thursday's highs today. We've already had these. There's Friday. Now you got that front moving through. But watch the change as you go from Saturday into Sunday and Monday as all the heat comes in just out ahead of that big low, and a major cool down for the west after this. And that, of course, progresses because the pattern stays open. So by next Wednesday, this is how the temperatures look. We've now swept that cooler air in, and day 5 through 10 keeps moving it to the east. Now you can see the trough over Alaska, the ridge over the northwest, and the trough over the east. Now, does this bring a frost farther into the Midwest? No, it does not. It doesn't do that just yet. We're still way too early for something like that, I think, to occur at this point, and the pattern's not set up for it. But out there, day 10 through 15, the ridge becomes reestablished, the warmth returns, and the cooler air begins to exit the eastern side of the United States. From here, take a look at this. What you're looking at is the average jet stream position in September and October when I averaged together the 40-year time period of 1980 to 2020. What you see is strong winds coming out of Europe, going across Asia, and then really speeding up in the North Pacific. The jet stream then comes into this section of British Columbia and meets up with the subtropical jet, and they come together right there. Now, why am I pointing this out? I'm pointing this out because the newest forecast at the end of September has some of those features except this one. You see, the jet stream pattern across North America is broken. There's a subtropical component and a polar component, which is weaker compared to normal. Doesn't mean there isn't still plenty of momentum and an unblocked pattern in the North Pacific, but it's weaker and farther to the north. And because of that, the model is attempting to keep that around through much of October. Even though it probably won't materialize, the model continues to keep it. And that's why the latest long-range update from September 25th to October 25th favors mild conditions, which we know won't look exactly like this, right? It's October. We have fronts that come through in October about every 4 or 5 days, maybe even every 3 or 4 days. And they drop those temperatures off. But it still favors a more mild October. And very good news is what the precip pattern looks like during that time. If the models have it right, and the flow stays split and weaker, and the jet stream stays farther to the north, we could have, well, for much of the Corn Belt, drier conditions. For parts of the South, just a little bit wetter than normal, but not like what we saw back in 2018, which is the year I keep referencing. So this is what I'm going to watch carefully over the weekend. And on my Monday morning video, get a new update over this time period. We got to have a discussion to see if anything changed there. Last thing I'm going to bring up is just what's going on with our La Nina. It is continuing to develop. We're getting stronger trade winds in this area, but I want to make one last point about it. It is nowhere close to the strength that it was last September, October, November. It's about half of that. So we're going to watch that carefully too, and I'll bring you updates here over the next few weeks as to what that's going to mean for the rest of our fall pattern. Okay, that's it for today. We'll talk to you again on Monday. Thanks.